Stand 2. 3 days ago in this file, I told you a meeting about Patriot missiles had gone, in a Ukrainian delegate's words, very good-natured, but still vague. And I told you something else, that a story about production licenses was floating in a headline I could not source, so I would not use it. Tonight I can source it. The license story is now on the record 3 times over, in the president's own words at both ends, with dates. So here's the timeline, soldier, and I want you to hold every date in your hand. July the 8th, a NATO summit in Turkey. The President of the United States says, and this is word for word, "We're going to give a license to you to make Patriots. This way you can't complain that we are not giving you enough." That is a specific promise about a specific weapon made out loud to an ally at war. July the 28th, after the White House meeting from Volume 18, Zelensky tells reporters the President had accepted that he will give us licenses. 2 men, 20 days apart, describing the same deal. July the 31st, Camp David, Friday afternoon. Same subject, same president. "We have not agreed to that. We're talking about it, but it's a hard thing to give away that kind of technology." And he gave a reason, which I will also give you in full, because it is a real argument and not a slip. Those people that you give that technology, they can someday turn on you. So there's the arc. Promised on the 8th, confirmed on the 28th, withdrawn on the 31st. Whatever you think of the reason, the promise did not survive the month it was made in. About 8 hours after those words, Russian ballistic missiles hit Kyiv. The first wave came at 1:33 in the morning, local time, with more explosions at roughly 2:16 and 3:20. The weapons included Zircons and Iskanders, which are exactly the class of missile that is hardest to stop. At least 9 people were killed and 23 injured, and among the dead were a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old. In the Darnitsky district alone, 7 people died. Mayor Klitschko, standing in front of partially collapsed buildings, said 3 words: "People are trapped." Now the discipline, because I am not going to weld those 2 facts together, and neither should you. Russia fires missiles at Kyiv whether or not anybody holds a press conference at Camp David, and no license signed in July would have built a single interceptor by Friday night. I am not telling you the walkback caused that strike. Here is what I am telling you, and it is smaller and harder. Against ballistic missiles, the Kyiv Independent's reporting is blunt. The Patriot interceptor is the only effective defense Ukraine has, and its supply has run dry. The night the license died was a night Kyiv needed interceptors it does not have. Those are 2 true facts, side by side. That is where I leave them. And here is why a license matters so much more than another aid package. The arithmetic of scarcity, running through 2 wars at once. Only 2 countries on this earth outside the United States hold licenses to produce Patriot missiles: Japan and Germany. That is the entire club Ukraine asked to join. Meanwhile, the same interceptor stock is being drawn down on the other side of the world. On July 29th, Jordanian air defenses shot down all 5 Iranian missiles fired at a U.S. airbase and a CENTCOM facility in Jordan. 5 for 5, and every one of those interceptions is a magazine that is now emptier. Same rounds, soldier. 2 wars, 1 inventory. Poland has already done this arithmetic, and watch what it did next. On July 30th, a suspected Russian cruise missile crashed near Tarnowa Colonia, inside Polish territory. Prime Minister Tusk's response was to say Warsaw would consider the transfer of additional missiles for Patriot systems to Ukraine. Read that move properly. A country that just had a Russian missile land on its own soil looked at its own defensive stockpile, the thing protecting its own cities, and concluded that rounds fired over Kyiv defend Warsaw too. That is what the scarcity looks like from inside the blast radius. After action. On the 8th, a promise. On the 28th, a confirmation. On the 31st, a withdrawal, with a reason attached. They can someday turn on you. And 8 hours after the withdrawal, 9 dead in Kyiv under the exact weapons the promised production was meant to answer, including 2 children. The reason deserves to be weighed, because technology transfer is a real risk, and grown-ups are allowed to weigh it. But a promise made at a summit, confirmed by the ally, and withdrawn at a press availability is not diplomacy, soldier. It is a decision that was never made pretending it was made. When a government gives you a date, write it down. It is the only way you will know, 3 weeks later, what their word was worth. File it. Dismissed. I'm Mark, and this is Pixel Politics.
I'm Mark, and this is Pixel Politics.